Support for the series on women in science and tech comes from Genentech, dedicated to breakthrough science and social good that supports local communities. Because making medicine is just one way to make a difference. Genentech, the future of science is here. Online at gene.com/future.
Hello and welcome. I'm Kamla. My guest today is Jyotsna Kaki. She's a program manager at Google. Welcome, Jyotsna.
Thank you.
So what do you do at Google?
I'm a program manager. I manage the Central Accessibility Testing team.
What does that mean?
So at Google, we have testing distributed in various ways, meaning within certain product teams, you have individuals doing accessibility testing. But in addition to that, we also have a central team, which would be more experts who do accessibility testing full-time as their job. So, and I manage that central accessibility.
What do you mean by accessibility?
By accessibility, I mean, basically in this scenario specifically, we are talking about making products, quote unquote, usable for people with various disabilities.
Okay, so in your case, you can't see.
Exactly.
Okay. And what are the other disabilities that you would be in the spectrum when you look at? What are other disabilities that you look at?
So there's quite a wide range, just to name a few. So for people who are hard of hearing, or for example, people who have partial vision, or who have, for example, blurry vision, or also people who are colorblind. So various range of disabilities.
That is in the vision category?
Yes.
Then there's the audio category?
Yes.
And what about motor skills?
Yes, there are also, again, people with motor disabilities. So we do have assistive technology for them as well.
And what about ALS?
Specifically, I wouldn't say there's a focused product for them in a sense, but there are. What happens when it comes to making products accessible for people with disabilities is, even though, for example, you may focus on specific disabilities, it does happen that other disabilities do get covered, even though you're not focusing on it. One example I can give you is, for example, when you're trying to make products accessible for a blind person, you try to make sure that your products are accessible using keyboard alone, which means unintentionally or as a side effect, you're also covering people with certain motor disabilities, meaning people who cannot use a mouse or something like that. So that's kind of, it's all mixed up in a sense. So you can't give a definitive list of what all disabilities you're actually covering.
Now, yours is a very interesting case, Jyotsna. You were able to see until a few years ago.
Yes, I was able to see up till November 2004. When I was about 21 years old, was when I lost my vision.
And you lost it how?
So I had a surgery, and one of the outcomes of the surgery was a loss of eyesight.
You had the surgery for?
It's a brain tumor. It's a slow-growing benign tumor. And basically when they tried to do a surgery, my optic nerve was traumatized.
Okay, so that's how you lost vision.
Yes.
That must be a day that you'll probably never forget.
In fact, I would actually say it the other way. Because it was a brain surgery, I was under very heavy medication, and I don't almost remember a month of the time post-surgery as to what actually had happened. However, over time, my mom has told this story to other individuals who have asked about it, so I kind of know what happened in the days after I lost my vision. But otherwise, from firsthand, I don't really remember because I was under such heavy medication.
So how did you then learn to transition to this period where you were not, where you can't see? You didn't know Braille, you had not used assisted technology. All of this was a new way of learning. You had to relearn a lot of these things.
Exactly. It was kind of relearning, restarting life from the beginning in a sense, because everything is different. Or at least majority of the things are different. Walking is different, doing cooking, getting dressed,
you cook?
everything. Yes,
you cook?
I do cook.
On a regular stove?
Yes.
And it's safe?
It is definitely safe.
Do you put the air vent on and all of that?
Yes, I do everything. I do cleaning of the house, I do the maintenance of the house, I do cooking. I even have a daughter who's 3-year-old. I have taken care of her since she was a baby. So I'm able to do, I would say I'm pretty much able to do everything I used to do before I lost my vision. The only difference is driving. Other than that, I'm able to do pretty much everything I used to be able to do.
Why then do we think that when somebody loses vision, they lose the ability to do a lot of other things? Why is it? Why do others think that way?
I think it's a lack of knowledge in a sense, and it's assumptions that we make. And I'll be honest in this scenario, before losing vision, I used to see a fellow student who was visually impaired and used to walk around campus with a guide dog. And I used to feel sorry for her, thinking, oh my God, her life must be so hard. But now being in the same situation, I'm like, I don't know what to be sorry for. I can do everything. And I know other individuals who don't do half of stuff what I do, and they have no disability whatsoever.
So what made you understand? Because you lost your vision? I'm just trying to understand, why do we make those wrong assumptions? And how can we be more understanding, of people with disabilities such as what you have?
I think it's having the open-mindedness. It's also probably because there isn't anyone, some people with a disability might be open to explaining their situation if you walk up to them and ask, but my guess is there is that hesitation. What if they take it offensively? So we can't just go up and ask. There's nowhere for anyone to learn, even if they wanted to. So we go based on assumptions. All I know is I can only be in my shoes and explain it, but I can't put myself in your shoes and see it firsthand. So it's kind of hard for other individuals to understand unless and until they're in that situation, or if they interact regularly with somebody with a disability. Because, yeah.
So you're saying that don't hesitate, go and ask, and there's nothing wrong.
There's nothing wrong. Worst cases, they might get angry and say, hey, it's none of your business. Fine, what's the harm? But the best that is maybe they'll explain it to you, and you'll be in a better situation than you were before.
Now, did you have an interest in math and science as a kid?
Oh yes, not as much in science, but definitely maths.
Really?
One of my favorite subjects.
Was math?
Yes, yes.
And you were good at it?
Yes. And I think it also came from basically given that I was growing up in India. And in India, the enforcement on maths is quite high. And they start you off at a very young age to enforce you to learn mental maths and everything. And I can still remember growing up from a very young age, I used to have this mental maths book where my parents would have me do 1 chapter every day. So maybe my math skills were better for that reason. And because my math skills were better, that's why that became my favorite subject. And I think I was, up till I graduated high school, I was about 2 levels higher than other fellow class students in maths specifically.
So you came here as a teenager to this country?
I was 11 years old.
So you came as a 11-year-old, and so you did well in math. What did you think you were going to major in, because if you were good in math, I'm sure there was a lot of gentle pressure from your parents about doing, engineering or medicine.
Funny thing was, all the way through, I think, middle school, whenever anyone asked, what do you want to be when you grow up? I used to say, I want to be a housewife. And my parents used to say, you're going to be anyway. What else do you want to be? I'm like, yeah, I want to be a housewife. That's it. But when it came to high school, my dad wanted me to go into computer science. And I said, Dad, I love you. I'll listen to any other word you say, but computer science, no.
Why?
For some reason, I could not see myself as doing coding all the time, like 8 hours a day.
You code?
Yeah, like writing code. I just couldn't imagine myself doing that. And I just didn't like it. So I said, no, I don't want to go into that. My dad's like, come on, please go. Because he's into engineering, so he said, no, you have to do it. I'm like, no, I'm not going to do it. And finally, when it came to colleges, my dad and I came to an agreement. He said, okay, fine, no computer engineering, but how about still going to computers related? I'm like, fine, I'm fine with that. So he actually researched and he found business major, and he found this specialty in there called MIS, Management Information Systems. And he said, how about you try that out? I'm like, okay, a little bit of coding, I don't mind, I'll do it. And that's how I took up that major.
And you went to San Jose State?
Yes.
Okay. So did you code then when you were in school?
Very little, not much.
Was your father disappointed that you didn't code?
He tried repeatedly to force me to take some classes for coding. And I said, Dad, what's the point that I got into this major as opposed to computer science if you're going to take me into the same path? He only succeeded in getting me into 1 or 2 classes. But after graduating, after I started working, I went and did some self-study and I learned a little bit more coding. And I got into a bit more coding, and I'm actually still doing that now, learning more and more code over time.
So Daddy knew best.
Yes, I would say so. I would say so.
Okay, so you went into MIS, and it was while you were in your undergrad that you lost your vision.
Yes.
And the incredible thing is that you had to relearn to do a lot of things, and yet you didn't spend an extra semester graduating. You graduated within the 4 allocated years, right?
No, actually I did. I was supposed to graduate in May of 2005, but I graduated in May of 2006 instead.
Oh, so you took an extra year?
Yes, yes.
That's because of your retraining?
It's because of retraining, and I had to redo certain classes because
Why?
When I had left for my surgery, I was just about a month away from completing the semester. So when I went back, I had to go back and complete those courses I left. So that's why it took me 1 semester to finish up those courses, and then 1 semester to get training of how to live the life in a new way, and then 1 more semester was left, so I took those 1 more semester of new classes.
How has technology helped you in your transition?
Oh, wow. I would say without technology, I can't imagine doing anything whatsoever.
So help us understand.
So every step of the way, I think I heavily depended on technology. So for example,
Why do you use a phone? How do you use a phone?
So phone, I basically do everything in it. Sometimes I check email. I even check up my calendar events. If somebody sends me messages, to send messages to people, do all of that. So
How do you do it?
So this is basically a home screen. This is
Oh, I see that it's a hand gesture, so that's how you reduce volume?
no, that is to temporarily stop the screen reader from speaking.
How do you stop it?
So just put your hand over the proximity sensor, which is at the top right-hand side, and if you just wave it over there, it will stop temporarily.
Okay, so give us a demo. So how do you do? Go ahead.
YouTube. Search.
Ah.
Yeah, so it will stop temporarily.
Okay. So, but it's reading so fast. How do you know what it's saying?
So it ends up being that a person, well, when an individual loses one of their senses, their other senses get sharper. And for somebody who's visually impaired, their hearing, smell, all of those are much more keen and sharper.
Did you see that in your case?
So smell, I lost my sense of smell as well due to another surgery I had, but my sense of hearing, it is sharp. I can hear things that other people cannot, generally speaking. And that's what happens when you're sighted. When you look at a piece of paper, for example, you see things which are important to you. So you do selective reading. Just like that, for us, it's selective hearing. So we only hear things which are important. We're not listening or processing everything that is being spoken.
So you're doing audio scanning, like
Yes, exactly.
what we do scanning text, you do
Yes.
audio. But it's going so fast, Jyotsna, I'm just curious, how do you know what it's saying?
You just get used to listening to it at that speed. For us who get used to listening to it at that speed, if we go it slower, it becomes very agitating. If you have to
Painful.
listen, yes. It becomes very painful if you have to listen to it at a slow pace.
Okay.
So-
What happens if your phone, you run out of battery power?
Well, I generally have 2 phones on me because one is a corporate phone, one is a personal phone. I have a backup, and I always check up to make sure that I have battery. Second, I always mostly have chargers everywhere I need it.
How do you check for your power?
So it's in the notification menu. So
Application shade. Selected AT&T. Battery 49%.
it says battery 49%.
I didn't even hear that. So when do you start charging it?
Generally, if it gets to like 15% or so.
Oh,
sure.
you're bold. You wait. I don't wait till 15. When it's 49, I'm charging my phone. So you're far more bold than I am. Okay, and these are Android phones?
Yes.
Can you use Mac? I mean,
iOS, yes.
Yeah.
I do use them for testing purposes as well. So I do know how to use those as well.
Okay. And how do you... one of the fascinating things is I spent some time with you, and I saw that when we got lost, you pulled up Google Map and you actually guided us where to go. And that came as a surprise. I don't know why it came as a surprise to me, but that's when I realized that technology has changed so much that it doesn't matter because you can still help me navigate.
Yes, exactly. And that's definitely one assumption that a lot of times developers make. When they're building products, they think, hey, maps. Why would a blind person need it? Heck, they wouldn't need it. So they're like, they don't bother about making those kinds of products accessible. Or for example, photos. They're like, hey, why would a blind person use photos? Why make that accessible? There's no point of it. That's not true. I
You
mean,
take photos?
I do take photos.
But how do you know how to take photos?
So there is a feature, I mean, I don't have it installed on this phone, but there is a feature where in Google Photos, when I'm taking a picture, it will tell me if the subject I'm trying to take a picture of is center or to the right or to the left and things like that.
So it gives you audio cues?
Yes, it does give me audio.
You also showed me a video of your daughter dancing.
Yes.
And you said you took it.
No, that my husband took.
Okay, but do you also take videos?
I haven't done it so much, but I've tried a couple of times, and I think I've successfully done it once or twice.
Okay, okay. So do you know how to read Braille?
Yes.
Okay. Is Braille still relevant for you? Because there are so many audio-assisted... your phone just said something. What did it say?
It's turning off the screen.
Oh, it's turning off the screen. Okay, and that's called a screen reader.
Yes, the software on there is called a screen reader.
And that's a Google
Yes,
software.
a built-in one. On Android, it's called TalkBack.
TalkBack, okay. What was my question?
So you were talking about Braille?
Braille, yeah. So is Braille still relevant for you?
Yes and no. What I mean by that is I don't heavily use Braille. That's why I'm not a fast Braille reader. However, I know enough Braille to write and read it. I do use it on a regular basis. For example, I have, for kitchen, I have all of my spices in identical bottles. So I mark them off with a Braille label to identify which bottle is which spice. Similarly, I write down little notes to myself, so if, reminders or something like that. Similarly, on my laptop keyboard, oftentimes you'll see some of the keys have Braille on it, just as a marker spot kind of a thing. So in that scenario, or for example, if I'm navigating around at work, for example, if I need to know which conference room it is, I'll read the name of the conference room in Braille, like that. Yeah.
So all the conference rooms at Google have Braille?
Yes.
Okay. I want to switch gears and talk about empathy. You probably have a lot of empathy when you're doing your testing and whatever work you do at Google for accessibility. Has your degree of empathy increased after you lost your vision?
To be honest, I didn't used to do this testing prior to losing my vision. I only started this job after I lost my vision. I would actually think a person who has the disability, they probably don't feel so much empathy. Because they know firsthand as to what it means. So somebody who's an outsider, they probably feel much more empathy.
So you're saying I'd feel more empathy for you?
Exactly.
Okay. But do you feel empathy for other people that are...
Yes.
You do?
I do.
Okay, that's what I was...
Yes, not for myself, but others. However, more so for others who have other disabilities as opposed to a visual impairment.
So how does it change the way you work?
It just, I think twice, and it also motivates. If I need to motivate people, then I can give better examples, in a sense, and say, hey, if you don't make your product accessible, this is the effect it's having on them. And I can explain it more. And a word coming from my mouth is probably worth more than coming from somebody who doesn't have a disability.
How did you land a job at Google?
The honest answer for that is my brother actually had a friend who was working at Google. So multiple people, like multiple of my professors, told me to apply at Google, and I said I refused to apply.
Why?
Because I know that Google standards are very high, and I had come to the decision that there's no way I'm going to pass the interview. So I did not want to try because I did not want to set myself up for failure. So I refused.
You were afraid.
Yes, exactly. And I was like, hey, when I know I'm not going to get it, why even try and then be sad that I didn't get it? So I refused. And that's when my brother, who had a friend at Google who was working, he took my resume and gave it to him and said, look, this is my sister's resume. This is the job she's looking for.
What job were you looking for?
Accessibility testing specialist.
Okay.
Exactly.
So you knew that's what you wanted to do?
Exactly.
Why?
Actually, what happened was, after losing my vision, when I went back to college and living a life in this way,
Non-accessible world.
non-accessible world was very, very, very tough. And I had a lot of support from my faculty and my parents and everything. And I thought about it, what about those students who don't have anyone to help them out? I'm struggling with so much help. What about people without help? This can be a miserable world. Especially when I had to end up using some websites for doing some classwork and they were not accessible. I felt like I was going through torture. So then in my final semester, as a volunteer job, I worked at the Disability Resource Center, and one of the tasks they gave me was to test out some software to see if it was accessible using screen reader. When I tested it out and they made the decision based on my analysis, I'm like, why can't I do this full time so that I can make these websites accessible so that other people don't have to go through the misery of using inaccessible websites? And that's why I decided to come up with this position called Accessibility Testing Specialist.
So it was born out of your own necessity.
Yes, exactly.
And the empathy that you felt for others
Yes.
who have disability. So fast forward, your brother floats your resume to a friend, and then you shoot yourself in the foot saying, I'm not going to get a job in Google because I'm not good enough.
Exactly. And when my brother submits the resume, I hear back with the interview request, and then I go through the interviews, and I landed a job.
How surprised were you?
I was quite surprised.
Were you crying?
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. And I can still remember the day when the recruiter called to let me know.
What day was it?
I don't remember the day, but I remember what I was doing. I was in the kitchen cooking with my mom, and the phone rang, and the caller ID said Google. I'm like, Mom, I can't do this anymore. I'm going to turn off the stove. Let me pick up that call. Because I had set in my mind that I'm not going to get this job. I picked up the phone, and the recruiter was also playing tricks. He picked up the phone. He's like, Jyotsna, I have some news for you. And he was using a very serious tone. And he's like, are you alone? I'm like, no. He's like, I want you to sit down and have whoever is with you hold you, because this you will need some assistance. I told my mom, like, Mom, I was signed, I didn't get the job. I didn't get the job. And when he said, you got the job, I'm like, yeah, Mama, I didn't get it. I'm like, what? I got the job?
So you got the job?
Yep.
Okay, and what was the first day like?
It was scary, I would say. Very scary.
Have you ever seen Google?
No, I've never seen Google.
So you don't know?
No. It was very scary. I don't know. It's a huge campus, new place, new people. My first job out of college, so everything is new. And it was scary, being all on my own, not knowing what I can ask for, what I cannot ask for, what to do, what not to do. So very scary.
Who helped you navigate?
Just random people. So I went for orientation on the first day. So my mom took me there. She found a lady who worked in HR and said, can you please help her around? And throughout the day, that lady helped me go from one place to the other. Till the end of the day, they dropped me off in the lobby where my mom picked me up from.
Okay.
Yeah.
What advice would you give to somebody who is visually impaired or cannot hear, some disability of some kind? What advice would you give them? Can they study or do something in the field of engineering or sciences or math? Because technology has helped you, and now a lot of these things are available for, they're accessible for people with disabilities. What advice would you give them?
I would say the first thing that they need to do to get into their mind is there is nothing that they cannot do. They should not change anything in life or their perspective of what job to get into just because they think they have a disability. There isn't anything of that sort.
This is the new Jyotsna.
Yes, definitely. And I would say aim for the job that you dream of. Don't change your dreams. And try your best. I'm not saying the first step or second step or even the 50th step will get you success, but keep on trying. Because unless and until you try, and unless and until you believe in yourself, no one will believe in you.
And this comes from the bottom of your heart.
Yes, most definitely. And once you start believing in yourself and once you start trying, definitely you will notice others will start believing in you and definitely maybe even start helping you out.
And this comes from your own personal experience.
Yes, most definitely.
Jyotsna, it was such a pleasure to have you on our show and talk to you.
Pleasure was all mine. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. And thank you for watching. If you missed any of our shows, you can catch them on our YouTube channel. And remember to join us next week for another new conversation. Until then, goodbye.
Support for the series on women in science and tech comes from Genentech, dedicated to breakthrough science and social good that supports local communities. Because making medicine is just one way to make a difference. Genentech, the future of science is here. Online at gene.com/future.